Should you take creatine? Well, first off, let's go through the benefits because it's like, what's this hype about in the first place? First, the big one is strength and muscle size and performance. Because when people take it, it can help when it comes to greater gains in strength, muscle mass, and performance. And especially if you do high intensity intermittent activities like HIIT training that require fast recovery during training and competition, basically like really short rest periods, it's really, really good for that. It's also very good for things like injury prevention. Okay? It could reduce the frequency of dehydration, muscle cramping, and injuries to the muscles, bones, ligaments, tendons, and nerves. Rare creatine metabolizing syndromes can also be aided in this. Like in children with certain creatine deficiency syndromes, creatine supplementation might help some symptoms. Thought I'd throw that in there as a fun fact. Cognition and brain health is a new one that a lot of people are getting psyched about in the research, that it's looking promising. It's very, very early. There's nothing like super definitive yet, but it might improve performance during cognitive tasks, especially in older adults. So it could be very beneficial for the older generations. And another big one when it comes to as we age is fighting off things like sarcopenia and osteopenia, which is the loss of muscle and bone over time. And when you lose that strength, when you lose that bone, then you're at an increased risk for fractures, falls, and all that stuff that we definitely don't want to have happen. So what exactly does creatine do that helps with all this? Number one, it increases something called ATP. And if you want to get nerdy about it, it's adenosine triphosphate. That is the stuff that when you squeeze a muscle and you flex it, you use ATP to do that. And this is the main fuel source when it comes to that high intensity training, because when your heart rate is jacked up through the roof and you're putting tons and tons of effort, you use higher amounts of ATP as opposed to, say, like fat, which is what you would use a lot of when it comes to low intensity, steady state stuff like endurance running and things like that. But that doesn't mean that you're not burning fat. It just means that when it comes to what the fuel source is for that activity, that's the one you're using. Overall body fat loss is going to come from energy, whether you're in a negative or positive energy balance. And that comes down to calories, just to be clear on that. It also helps to hydrate the cells, and that is intramuscular hydration. This is not, oh, you take creatine and you're going to gain all this water weight. No, that's subcutaneous, that under the skin, like that puffy look that people don't want. This is not that. Creatine goes and pretty much fills your muscles up like a balloon, kind of like when you introduce carbs in for the first time after going really low carb and losing weight. All of a sudden, you put carbohydrates into your body, it turns into glucose. That glucose binds with water and it fills your muscles up like a balloon, which makes you actually look more toned, which tends to be something that people like to have happen. Okay. Now, where does this come from? Like, where does creatine come from? Well, I can tell you right now, it's natural. Okay. For anybody who's like, if it's synthetic, I'm not going near it. All right. It is natural. It comes from red meat, pork, veal, beef, things like that. It comes from seafood like fish and shellfish, and animal milk like cow, goat, and sheep's milk. It's just at a much more concentrated dose. So it's basically like if you were taking vitamin C out of a fruit and you're making sure that you have extra of that good ingredient. All right. So who should not take it? This is a very, very big one. You want to make sure you're not in this group because you don't want to take something because of all these benefits, but then at the end of the day, it ends up harming you. Okay. And that really comes down to people with kidney dysfunction, because it might worsen kidney dysfunction in people with kidney disorders. Now, I've heard different things about that, and I can't say with absolute certainty that it definitely does, because there's conflicting views on that. So if you have any questions on that and you do have a kidney condition, talk to your nephrologist. They will be a much better source of information than I am on this subject. Now, when it comes to side effects, other things that may be negative, no, the big one when it comes to creatine is GI issues. And that usually, like GI discomfort, okay, that usually comes from things like the loading phase, where a lot of times you'll see on the label for creatine, it'll have directions on how to take it. And a lot of them have what's called a loading phase, where they tell you instead of having the standard size, which is like 3 to 5 grams, which is about the size of that scooper they will give you, they say, no, you got to take like 20 grams or more in the first few weeks. And technically, that does work to saturate the cells faster, but speed is not the name of this game. Okay. We are not going to go crazy and try and like load up on creatine super duper fast, because this is something that you take basically for the rest of your life. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like you're going to the same party, but by doing the loading phase, you're showing up to that party earlier. And by you showing up earlier, that could cause problems. Kind of like when you actually do show up to a party too early, they make you help set up and put together stuff. And maybe you have to cook a little something, or maybe you have to go on a last minute booze run. Okay. That's basically your GI is like, oh crap, now we got to do all these things that we didn't have to because we're overloaded at this point. And that could also be due to the fact that there might be fillers in whatever brand you selected. So you really got to be picky. And we're going to go over brands that I trust that I've actually used that are rock solid at the end of this, but just know that it could also be a quality issue. So you got to be really, really careful with the brand that you decide to go with. And also, when it comes to that loading phase, just skip it. Okay. You do not need the loading phase. This isn't a quick race to see who could get their cells saturated faster. It's like, okay, you're doing all these things and creatine's going to help a little bit with improving all the stuff that you're already doing. Okay. So what type should you get? There's a lot of different types out there. And I can tell you right now, the only one that you should get is creatine monohydrate because it's tried and true. It's the one that's been tested for decades. It's got a mountain of research behind it. And you can guarantee that that will get you all the benefits that we are talking about. Okay. Now there's multiple other ones on the market. And just to get ahead of myself a little bit, a lot of them are way overhyped and they're just an excuse to charge you more because creatine is a dirt cheap supplement and people want to make money on this. So they're going to hype these other ones up and be like, no, I promise it's different. It's better. It's great. But it's actually not. It's just them trying to squeeze you for more money for the exact same. And actually some of them are worse products. So let's talk about the different types. There's creatine ethyl ester or CEE, and they claim that there's better absorption and bioavailability than creatine monohydrate. But in reality, studies show it's less stable and degrades into creatinine in the stomach, potentially reducing its effectiveness. It also doesn't appear to be superior to creatine monohydrate for increasing muscle creatine or improving performance. So bye-bye creatine ethyl ester. Move along. Next is liquid creatine. And this is liquid creatine was created more for the convenience factor of like, look, you can just take it on the go and whatever. It's convenient and it's readily absorbed by your body. That's the claim. Now, the reality is that evidence suggests that creatine might degrade in liquid form over time. So kind of like we saw with the energy drinks that had creatine in it. What was it? Oh, Bang Energy. They had what they called super creatine in it. And then they went ahead and sold it for years and years and years. And people were like, this is great. I'm getting my creatine with an energy drink. And then they found out when they tested it that there's like next to no creatine in it because it degraded over time. So you want to get a solid form like a powder, a capsule, or they're doing gummies now. And I'm not totally sold on the gummies yet, but the the pill form and the powder are usually the way to go because they're solid and then you mix it in right in the moment and you take it so that it doesn't degrade like it does here. Okay, next is buffered creatine, or I believe the trademark name for it is Krealkalyn, KRE-ALKALYN. And they claim that it's more stable in the stomach and better absorbed, leading to improved results. In reality, limited scientific evidence is out there to support these claims. And buffered creatine doesn't appear to be more effective than creatine monohydrate, and it's typically more expensive. Honestly, you could say it's typically more expensive for pretty much all of these other versions. Then there's creatine hydrochloride, or HCl. They claim that higher solubility and potentially better absorption and potentially reducing the need for a loading phase or high doses because it's just so darn great. But in reality, while it's more soluble, there's limited evidence that it's more effective than creatine monohydrate for increasing muscle creatine or improving performance. Also, despite the higher solubility, it's still recommended to consume it with sufficient water. So it's like, okay, that solubility thing kind of goes out the window. And also, typically more expensive. And last but not least, we have creatine magnesium chelate. I hope I'm saying that right. Regardless, it's CHELATE. And its claim is that it has enhanced absorption and potential for improved performance due to the addition of magnesium. Okay. And that's where the magnesium chelate comes in. But the reality is, limited evidence suggests that creatine magnesium chelate is as effective as creatine monohydrate, but no evidence indicates that it's superior. So if you're between that and regular creatine monohydrate and the goal is to get the results of creatine, and this creatine magnesium chelate is more expensive than monohydrate, what the hell are we doing here? Just save yourself the money, all right? Because when it comes to the money, the typical price of creatine monohydrate is about 39 cents to 50 cents per serving. At least that's what it is with what I'm giving you guys as far as my favorite brands go. And that's if you get it in bulk, which you can, because creatine is pretty good when it comes to storage, as long as you have like one of those little things on the inside that controls for moisture and you're not putting it in direct sunlight or a really hot area. Like you follow the instructions, cool, dry places, it'll hold for a long time. So you can get like 3, 6, 9 months worth in one go and be set. All right. So my favorite brands are Legion. Okay. They have the powdered form, the capsule form, and the gummy form. Like I said, I'm not totally sold on the gummies just yet. They're very, very new. And there's that evidence that we have on the liquid not being that great. So I would say for right now, the only thing I'm really comfortable suggesting is powder or the capsules, because the powder, tried and true, we've been doing it for years. Everybody knows. And the capsules are literally just the powder in a gel cap. So same thing. All right. MyProtein, that's all one word, MyProtein. Make sure, or also, I forgot to mention, when you're looking for brands and types, if you have a very sensitive stomach and you may see that GI issue pop up, even with a good brand like this, look for micronized creatine monohydrate, because that's just that next level of it's been filtered and it's much easier to digest. That's where Optimum Nutrition comes in. They have a very good micronized creatine monohydrate. I've used it, very solid. One of my favorites too is Jocko. That's like Jocko Willink for anybody who is familiar with it. And if you like supporting an American brand and it's right on par with all of the costs of the other ones, then that's another solid one as well. So with all that being said, all right, what is the dosage that you need to take every single day? 3 to 5 grams. That's it, just every day. Do you need to take it at certain times, like pre-workout or anything? No, because all it does is increase the pool of the ATP in your body. So imagine right now, your body is capable of having like a kiddie pool size of ATP to use during your workouts. And as you're doing your workouts, you're like draining that pool, and you have like none left, even though you always have a little something. And it always refills back up between sets. But you're operating with that tiny, tiny pool during that set. Okay. When you take creatine, it increases to like an Olympic size pool, let's say, not true to size comparison wise, but you go from a kiddie pool to an Olympic size pool. So mid set, you're able to crank out 1 or 2 more repetitions or whatever it is. And that's what leads to all these positive benefits. But just know that it's not time sensitive. It's just, are you taking it today to ensure that that pool is at the size that you want it to be? All right. And you don't have to take it to get amazing results. Is this an awesome add-on? And does it have another, possibly even more benefits along with it? Yes. So it can be an awesome addition, but it is not a 100% requirement, because you can still build muscle, thicker bones, get incredible workouts, burn body fat, all those things that you want to do without creatine. This is just a nice add-on that does help. All right. So that being said, that's all you need to know about creatine. I hope I gave you enough to chew on and understand what it's all about, what exactly you want to go get, whether it's at the store or go online. And I'm even going to put the links to the ones I just mentioned down below in the show notes and the description, so you guys can just click away and get those. But along with that, I'm also going to put links down below for, number one, workouts. If you're struggling to do your workouts because you don't have enough time, I have 20-minute ones down there you could do at home with dumbbells, bands, or body weight. Just click it, grab it, and that way you could put this creatine to use. All right. And then if nutrition's really the thing holding you back and you're like, cool, supplements, check. When it comes to regular food, not check. Like we have an A in supplementation and maybe like a C or a D or an F when it comes to actual nutrition. That's what the free nutrition assessment is for. So if you want to talk with me about your nutrition and figure out what you need to do to start getting you to a place where you're going to get the best results possible, then definitely take advantage of that. And last but not least, if you want to tie it all together and put the action behind all this information because you're taking it all in and you're not actually doing the damn thing, that's what coaching is for. Okay, if you need that professional level of accountability to get you moving and get you actually doing the things that you know you need to be doing, that's what coaching is for. So if you're interested, click that link, see what it's all about, and you and me can have a conversation to see if it's right for you. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in all the way through. I will see you next time, but until then, go kick some ass. Bye-bye.